Good evening. We are going to start today the second part of our discussion on subgradient algorithms. So, the algorithm that I am showing you on the screen, which I am writing as algorithm A, is a subgradient algorithm based on computing the descent direction. Now, the interesting issue is that though we have computed the descent direction, the fact that the functional value at xk plus 1 would be strictly lower than that of f of xk is not really used while proving the convergence analysis. Convergence analysis is is an analysis where we give certain conditions under which we can say that the sequence xk, yeah, the iterates that is generated by this algorithm would actually converge to a solution. So here let us see what we do here. We take an initial guess and then at the kth step we check if 0 is element of del f xk. If yes, then stop, or else compute dk, which is the descent direction in the way that we had already done before. In the previous lecture we have spoken as how we should be able to do this. Okay, and then if you observe this, then you will observe that we have assume that we choose our tk in such a way that the functional value decreases. So you can say that this is a very thematic algorithm. It doesn't really, it cannot be put into practice because you are solving a constraint problem with trying while trying to solve an unconstrained problem, which is true. You will never use this algorithm to actually solve convex optimization problems even if you have non-smoothness. So that is if you want to use subgradient, that is what we'll do later on, where we don't use so much of things. Now suppose I have this algorithm, the most idealistic algorithm, then what is the convergence analysis? Do these xk's actually go to the solution? The answer is yes, and the analysis that I'll present here is based on a theorem given in the book Numerical Optimization, Theoretical and Practical Aspects, written by four optimizers: J. Bonans, Charles Gilbert, Claude Lemarchal, and Claudia Sagasti-Zabal. So the non-smooth optimization part is written by Claudia Sagasti-Zabal, and in her proof she has jumped a lot of steps. I would say it made it very short, basically possibly thinking that the book would be largely read by graduate student or and researchers, but even I guess that is not fair even on graduate students. The steps were jumped too much, so the real motivation behind or the idea behind the proof gets completely marred by the very fast step jumps. So here in this presentation we do a full analysis with all the details are filled in. So let us read the analysis. It says that let us consider the problem P, the theorem, and let us use the algorithm A to solve it. Suppose we can actually, through some method, we are able to compute the descent direction and find the tk. Our tk should be chosen in such a way such that these two conditions are satisfied. These are called the Robbins-Monroe conditions, because Herbert Robinson Monroe, I don't remember the other's full name. Herbert Robbins is also a famous author of What is Mathematics with Richard Courant. So they had used this condition on step sizes, and this is a very useful condition. And most algorithms you will see that these kind of conditions are there. Then the iterates generated by algorithm A would go to the minimizer of P. So we do not expect anything else other than this condition on the step length. Once the step length follows these conditions, it will go. So please understand that when the key idea behind any convergence analysis is to prove that the iterates xk is actually bounded. So when you prove that the iterates xk is actually bounded, then you know that there is a convergence subsequence by Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem which will go to some limit. And that limit we can prove is the solution. So at least we know that there is a subsequence. So proving the boundedness is the first step, and that is exactly what we do in the first step here. But while at the same time it is important to know that if I have assumed that there is a solution, we have to know at each point how far is the iterate from the solution. So that's the kind of thing also it's important at the end when you finally prove the convergence. So here we try to take any y in Rn and then write x. I try to find this distance xk minus x of k plus 1 at iterate xk plus 1 minus y. And of course xk plus 1 can be written down as xk minus tk xi k by norm xi k, as the exactly as the one what is written here, this one. So once that is done, we do certain manipulations, assuming that there is that the function that xi k is an element of the subgradient. We obviously xi k is an element of a subgradient because we have computed the steepest descent direction. So hence, using the fact that xi k is a subgradient, we come to this inequality D. And once we come to the inequality D, we know that this fy minus fxk, once we set y equal to x bar, fx bar minus fxk is less than 0 because x bar is the minimizer. So essentially we are trying to find the distance from the minimizer, and that is the relationship. Now observe that if I keep on repeating this relationship down to x1, which is our, instead of x0 I am taking x1 as our initial point. So I had mentioned the proof that x1 is the initial solution. So it will come down to x1. So x1 minus x bar is a fixed quantity. As x1 is my starting point, which I know. X bar, I assume that there is an x bar, so this is a fixed quantity, and that I call this x1 minus x bar whole square I call as r square. There is x1 minus x bar is some r, there is a distance, and summation k tn square. Now this is a partial sum. Now summation n equal to 1 to infinity tn square convergence. So these partial sums are convergent, and hence this is a sum of sequence of partial sums is a bounded sequence. So and that is, once you use that fact, you come and prove that xk plus 1 minus x bar is less than some p, where p is of this form. Okay, you can stop the recording, stop the video, and just see it for a while. Once you do this, you can prove that xk plus 1 is less than p plus norm x bar, which, and so you take p plus norm x bar and its maximum, and whether if p plus norm x bar and norm x1, whichever is maximum, we has to bound it. So anyway, the whole sequence now has been proved to be bounded. It doesn't matter, xk plus 1 you write or xk you write. So xk is now bounded. Once it is bounded, you have to, now next step is that we use the local boundedness property of the subdifferential. This is the property which has to be known to those who are listening to this video. You have to know this property of local boundedness, which means that when xi k, for k is very large, so this del fx k, when k is very large, each of these, for each k, this del fx k, all this del fx k comes within a compact set. So all these xi k can be bounded by a fixed number m. That is the meaning of local boundedness. So for k large, this happens. So now, because, so what does it mean by local boundedness? Except a finite number of k's, for all other xk's, del fx k comes within a fixed compact set. So for the remaining part, right, so we can say without loss of generality that the sequence is bounded. Because if you take xi k, so the sequence of xi k, only the finite number of elements you have left off. So the finite number of elements, you just take the max with that and m that you have. So ultimately you will get an m, so the sequence is bounded. So the norm xi k is a bounded thing. Sometimes instead of people make an assumption that this vk is bounded, you do not need it, because you can use the this kind of you can use this local boundedness property. But some people, in the next algorithm, we will actually assume that it is bounded and proceed. So depends on how you look at it. You may or may not. Sometimes you can just take local boundedness and go through it. So once you have done this, now if x bar is a minimizer, we must have this fxk bigger than fx bar, so limit infimum is this. We do not know whether the limit exists, so but limit infimum would anyway exist, and because it's bounded by a finite quantity, this limit infimum has to be either plus infinity or finite. Now we want to claim that this is equal to this. So on the contrary, we claim this, that is strictly bigger, and then because between two real numbers where one is greater than the other, they're infinite real numbers, you can write this equation very well. So once you do, by the definition, we write this and put minus delta and take one delta on the other side. Now by the definition of limit supremum, you can have a k naught such that for all k bigger than k naught this is true. You have by the definition of the limit infimum. So you really have to know the definition of the limit infimum. So these are basic things in analysis which we are not going to explain here, because this is an advanced course trying to explain new optimization, convex optimization algorithms, and that too in the subgradient situation, non-smooth situation. So once you do this, we prove that for large k, this is what happens. So fx bar is strictly less than fxk minus delta. So once you do this, you put it here, fxk minus fx bar, you put it here, you come to this equation, and there you put this expression. So then you make certain combinations. So what you do, so you know that summation tk square is less than infinity, so tk square goes to 0. So this is convergence, so tk square goes to 0 and tk goes to 0. So also you know that for k sufficiently large, because tk is changing and delta dash is a fixed number, delta by m. If m is very large, I say m is very large, very very large, then delta by m is very small. So when tk is becoming 0, so it can be coming near 0, this is a negative number, it can be made less than a small negative number. So once I have this, I finally, using this, I come to a inequality like this. I understand that I am going very fast, so you don't understand it possibly fully, but these are the steps we are doing. So what we are going to now do is that we see that here we have tried to, for all k dash bigger than some k dash, we have tried to write down this equation repeatedly and then cut off these telescopic sums, just as we had done here, where we had write down these equations and we had this kind of thing finally. Because a repeated application here, because of this minus signs, you can see we can write down this thing in a form of a telescopic sum, and we have this. And now once we have this, with this being positive, minus of this is negative, so this whole thing is less than this, but this is again less than p square for k large, because it's bounded. So which means that sorry for the sound. Now which means that this thing, delta summation, this thing is equal to this is less than equal to p0. So if this is from k equal to 1 to k dash, because this is a finite sum, it's a partial sum, if this is p0, then k equal to 1 to k dash, if I add this k equal to 1 to k dash, this part is less than equal to p square plus p0, because here it is k dash to k double dash, here it should be k dash to k double dash, here is a mistake, there it's not k equal to 1, so k equal to k dash to k double dash. Now k equal to 1 to k dash, this part is some p0, because this is a partial sum. So this whole term from k equal to 1 to k dash is less than equal to p square plus p0, right? So it doesn't matter, any k double dash that you choose above k dash, this will be true. Now we can take k dash as large as possible, and then what we have proved that in fact that this summation, this thing, that summation k equal to 1 to infinity tk is actually convergent while it is actually divergent, and that's the assumption, which is a contradiction to our assumption. So this fact that the limit infimum is actually not equal, it is strictly greater, is wrong, and then hence it is equal. So what does it mean once limit infimum is equal? When limit infimum is equal, there is always a subsequence which you will find, such on that subsequence the functional value of f of x kj, there is a subsequence on which the limit actually exists. So limit infimum means is the infimum of the limit points. So there is a subsequence on which the limit is actually equal to fx bar. Now xkj is bounded sequence. When xkj is anyway bounded, there must be a convergence subsequence, but we are assuming xkj itself is bounded. We are not getting into again writing the subsequence steps and the indexes and making it complex. So what we prove here, that xkj is bound goes to some x star, so x hat. So what we prove that fx hat equal to fx bar. So we're showing that x hat is a minimizer of p. So xkj is going to x star, sorry, x hat, not x bar here. Here it should be x hat, right? Here also here should be x hat. Please understand that wherever I have made a mistake, here wherever I have written x bar, it should be x hat. So what I want to show is that the sequence that I have xk, that finally goes to x hat. Now since xkj goes to x hat, so we can find a j such that this will happen, j naught such that for all j bigger than j naught, this will happen. This is just the definition of a sequence, definition of the limit, limit of a sequence. Here it will be x hat. Similarly, because k equal to 1 to infinity, we can obviously show that there is a kj for sufficiently large j such that kj to infinity, this is strictly less than epsilon by 2, because this is convergent. Now this minus this should be x hat plus this. This is already, this the same equation which we have done. Now this is obviously less than the total sum. This is from kj to k infinity, and then this is from kj to infinity, not from kj to k hat. So now by repeatedly using what we had known, E means the first equation, which what is this? By repeatedly using E, this one. So by same thing, same idea, that same thing, that the initial calculation that we did is coming in the last one. So that is why we needed to know how far is x bar from xk plus 1. Once we have done that, so what this is x hat, so this will be x hat. So xkj minus x hat whole square is less than epsilon by 2, and this is also less than epsilon by 2. So this whole thing is less than epsilon, x hat k plus 1. So what we have proved, that as k hat tends to infinity, we have this goes to 0, that x hat k goes to x hat as k tends to infinity, which proves the result. Please understand that you can say that what have you done here? What have you done here? I am looking at all the k's beyond k hat. So that is why I am starting to look from kj and up to k hat, and anything beyond k hat will have this. So I am starting from kj and going up to k hat. So kj is my this thing in the subsequence. So I am not looking, so after I am going from kj to k hat, I am taking something 1 kj here. Now once I have the kj, I am taking it as now as an element of the actual sequence, and then I am going between kj to k hat. So now repeatedly assuming, repeatedly using E, that equation, for any k hat bigger than kj. We are not now in the sequence. We have already chosen one element from the sequence, subsequence xkj, which will satisfy this. Once we have done that, we are looking at it as an element of the sequence, and we are showing that by repeatedly applying that original equation E, the first one that we derived, we would have a scenario like this if we go from kj to k hat. So you will have a kj. Now there you apply this, and also for this you apply this, and once you do that, for any k hat, when any k beyond k hat, I can prove this, which means this thing converges, that xk sequence converges, and hence we have proved the result that xk hat plus xk, the sequence xk converges to x hat, and x hat is already proved to be solution. So Observe that here we have not used anything like the descent, that the f value has gone down at xk plus 1. F of xk plus 1 is strictly less than fxk. So do we really need a descent direction? That is the question. And that is the question that we will address in the next talk. And we will also look into the matter that suppose I want to get an epsilon solution, that is f of xk minus fx star is less than epsilon, then how many steps I require, how many iterations are required to do that, is required to do that. That is the complexity of the algorithm, and that is what we will discuss in our next lecture. So thank you very much for your patience, and we will discuss a bit of things before we start the next algorithm. So let us stop this, and thank you for your attention. And if there is any problem, please discuss it with me. I am sure that it's not so easy to understand this algorithm. So idea on a very rough note is trying to first get an estimate of the distance between xk plus 1 and x bar, trying to prove that xk is bounded, trying to prove that the limit infimum of the sequence f of fxk actually goes to a functional value, a minimal value, and you can find and you can get and construct an x hat at which the minimal value is achieved, and that is f of x hat, and then show that the sequence actually goes there. These are the three main steps. So thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. Good night.